Welcome to Visionaries.
Global media, envisioning excellence on a global scale.
This is Banned from Ringside.
Tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast, we have so much stuff to talk about.
Welcome to Visionaries.
We have Wrestle Kingdom. Guys, we are outside. It is cold outside. Sorry about this.
Welcome.
It's out of my control. It's out of my control.
Welcome to Visionaries. Welcome to Visionaries Global Media.
I think it's just stuck down now. We have so much stuff to talk about tonight. We have New Japan Wrestle Kingdom 16. We have WWE Day 1. We have a NXT. I am totally thrown off now. NXT New Year's Evil. A great AEW last night with Daniel Bryan, Adam Page 2. Tony Khan sticks his foot in his mouth. WWE has some more releases. There's an incredible street fight on Rampage. That and a whole bunch more tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast. God damn.
You can tell how this pod is going to go off the jump.
Ditch that 9 to 5. It's time to feel alive. Hello, Mark. So welcome to the Banned from Ringside podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bill Vagey, a.k.a. Pod So Good, make you want to slap your jobber. And sitting to my left, we have Jason Cornelius Bell. What's going on, JCB?
That's amazing. Good shit, Vice. Allow us to bow our heads as I read from the latest edition from the Banned from Ringside podcast, volume 238, chapter 3, verse 14, and the good smart say it's hashtag who the heels. It is all good, baby. Listen, share, subscribe, repeat the holy trinity of BFR. I've been off all week. I've been off since Saturday night. Start work again tomorrow. This was not necessarily planned. It fell into my lap. It was a beautiful time for me to be off because there is so much wrestling in and out of the ring. We said we're going to try to keep this under 2 hours, so let's try to keep this under 2 hours.
Yeah, let's try to keep. That's why we're outside. And out there on the West Coast, we have Two Beer. Zach Bowman, what's going on, Two Beer?
BFR West in the house.
Not much. So it's 238. Is that mean episode 238?
That's episode 238, my brother.
God damn, guys. I gotta say, I really appreciate the fact that I was looped into this, and it's the highlight of my week, like every week, and it's just super cool. That's a lot, and I don't think we call out enough. I don't think we put ourselves over at all because we're all self-deprecating, or at least that's how I am. And 238 episodes of consecutive weeks is pretty impressive. I think that's more than like Sunday Night Heat or Shotgun Saturday Night. So.
I'll tell you what.
Why are you bringing up the funk shit, dog?
If I would have known, because Jason and Zach didn't know each other before the podcast, if I would have known that about all the cum jokes that would have might have made a different decision. But we are too far down the rabbit hole now.
I was about to say, I'll move to Portland, motherfucker. Don't even try. I know somebody there. I know two people there.
So, Jason and I, yes, that's a very nice sentiment, Zach. I agree completely. I'd like to break down 238 hours or not even 238 hours, more than that, into how many weeks we've actually just, the three of us have talked about wrestling, which is quite a bit, but we have fun, and we hope you guys have fun listening to it. Jason and I are braving the cold outside, so Jason can smoke, and I can smoke too. And
I love how I get thrown underneath the bus for this one.
I thought there was so much stuff for us to talk about. I was like, well, I also didn't want to be, because the baby's going to go to sleep, and then we're going to have to be downstairs. We're going to have to be way far away, and it just didn't seem very conducive. This seems more conducive. You're alive when you're outside and cold. You know what I mean? Just fucking alive.
I'm about to say, I got a whole new, what's the word I'm looking for? A whole new respect for the Green Bay Packers that do this shit. And
you're from a warm weather people. You're almost frozen right now. You look like Nicholson at the end of The Shining. You know what? We don't have any sponsors anymore.
Nope.
Thanks for listening. We got too much stuff to get into. Let's get to that 3 count.
And also, there's no hope of any in the future.
Yeah, well, there's probably no
based
hope
on the content.
That's probably true. And I just hit the 3 count. It didn't do anything. I think the Roadcaster is.
Welcome.
Oh no, never mind. Ding, ding, ding. Jason, what's that? What's that 1 count?
This is gonna be a great fucking pod. I cannot
Ding,
wait.
ding, ding.
All right, so I have been tasked with the New Japan portion of the program, so that is going to be our 1 count. New Japan had their 2-night Wrestle Kingdom show on the 4th and the 5th, Tuesday and Wednesday mornings. We just said we weren't trying to do the highlights of it, so for me, the biggest highlight, and I won't even say the obvious one, I'll say the one that made me pop the most, that made me really sit up and start to take interest, was Kento and Tana Hoshi. That was for the U.S. title, no disqualification, and Tanahashi had said something in the backstage promo that I really didn't pay any attention to. It just sounded like, babyface talk. He had said something to the effect of that he was going to go out of his way to go the heel route and be the champion, to go with any, above it, any and all means to be the champion, I guess, better choice of words. And I never really tripped off of that. I was like, okay, no big deal. That's just what, babyfaces are supposed to say. And then this match happened. Holy fucking shit. Okay, this ladder spot was like, no way. There's no way they're going to do this. Kenta brings out, it had to be, 20 feet, 30 feet? It was the biggest ladder I ever seen in my goddamn life. And Tanahashi proceeds to do a high-fly flow off this ladder onto Kenta while Kenta's laying on the table, flush perfectly. I mean, you can't practice this. This was, an agreement between two guys where they're just like, okay, we're going to do this spot, and, let's just pray everything goes right. Red Shoes didn't hold the ladder, which was a kind of a surprise. I wasn't sure that this ladder was going to hold. I thought that was the match that I had some, moderate expectations for. That Joker blew the expectation level out of the water. Obviously, Tanahashi went over there. From that point, for me, the next 2 biggest matches were obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but the 2 heavyweight title matches with Okada winning both matches, him versus Shingo in night 1, and then being Will Ospreay in night 2. It was this is what I like about New Japan. We talked about this a lot, where it's a redemption arc, where it starts, a story starts one way, and now it goes completely full circle. Okada was kind of in the dark for a good period of time. It was Naido with the double titles. Then it went to Ishii, so on and so forth. Ibushi, you throw in guys here and there. And Okada, for whatever reason, was in the background. If it was health or storyline or whatever the case may be, Okada was never really around until really recently. And then in the G1, when he decided to go back to the Rainmaker as the finisher to put the money clip on the shelf, I thought that was probably the second biggest storyline for me, taken away from the couple of nights of Wrestle Kingdom. Desperado and Harombu being the third. I thought Desperado finally vanquishing Harombu in a junior heavyweight title match, in the way he did it in all white. I thought that was really sweet. So to me, those were the 3 biggest, I guess, hit points for Wrestle Kingdom.
Zach, tell us, what was your biggest takeaway?
Man, what a couple nights. I will say, as far as just to follow Jason's theme, the thing that popped me the most, besides the high fly flow through the table, which totally popped me, even though it took Kenta 5 years to set up the ladder, as he was making fun of it, and the crowd was like making fun of him for taking so long. But just the shot of him going through the table, and then the shot of the blood from Kenta's head from falling off the ladder previously, just smeared all over those very hard to break tables. Very cool, even though that match was kind of a shit show. Tanahashi gets it done in the Tokyo Dome. He gets it done everywhere. But the thing that popped me the most was Shibata going into business for himself and just saying, dude, I got my protege here. He looks like me. He wears the same trunks as me. He will be a bigger star than me. And we are going to show you what I can do. And that was a shoot. It wasn't just Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton being like, oh, he's going into business for himself. I listened to Observer Radio today, and nobody in the back, ghetto, no executives were okay with this at the beginning of it. He was not admonished or punished or anything, because what are you going to do to Shibata? I mean, he's your best trainer. He's training the future. He didn't do anything wrong. He gave you an amazing, 4.5-star match with a young lion on Excursion. And yeah, went into business for himself, and just like, it was one of the best matches of the whole 2 nights.
We should name that young lion. That's Ren Narita.
Ren Narita.
Yep.
Yes, Ren Narita. Yeah,
Edgar Ren Narita.
All right, Chris Berman. No, I want to piggyback on that for 30 seconds. Ren Narita has been on New Japan Strong, so that's obviously over here in the States, in L.A., and he's had a couple of really big wins, the biggest over Chris Dickinson. He had a title match against the New Japan Strong champion, Tom Lawler. That was a banger match. So, I mean, for those who watch New Japan Strong, this was a really good call, number one, because obviously it's in the New Japan dojo and Shibata is the trainer. But then number two, this just adds more to the legend of Ren Narita. So when he does come back, it's just he's going to come back with some, I guess, a little bit of a resume. He's gotten himself over with, matches in the States, and now obviously with this match with Shibata at Wrestle Kingdom. So yeah, I totally forgot about that.
What else you got, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, and you can't not talk about the main events, which, even though I was wrong on both accounts, I thought Shingo was going over, and it was going to be Shingo Ospreay, but fantastic main event both nights. I really enjoyed the Shingo Okada story. Big Shingo fan, big Okada fan. Obviously, if you listen to the pod, Shingo's just one of my guys, and Okada is like the guy, and never been hit with the Rainmaker, and that was the story of the match. Very cool. And he went over, and I'm not mad about it. Like, we're back to the Okada reign, and like, the dude took almost, I don't want to say too long because of the pandemic. If not for the pandemic, we might have thought that he took too long off. So maybe it was perfect that he could heal up some and be that Okada that we all remember, and do some bullshit feud with Yujiro in the meantime. And have some balloons, taped to his trunks, in the meantime. And that's all fine because, like, this dude's back, because those drop kicks are just as high. Yeah, these drop kicks are just as high. I think he is a smarter wrestler. I think he is a more capable and more precise wrestler. He's always been very technically sound, and his timing has been great. I don't mean that as far as precise. What I mean is, when you watch this and when you watch the Ospreay match, every movement, like every kind of effort of like movement, is precise in the sense that every move matters.
It's also, especially in the Ospreay match, it's also like necessary. Like, every move that Okada did in that Ospreay match, and Ospreay, also, it was necessary. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like, Ospreay did a ton, and I mean, he did the moonsault like 12, 14 feet up off of the scaffolding.
Unbelievable.
Just absolutely
no way. I'm like, dude, no way they're going to do this again.
So, go ahead.
Real quick, we got the classic spot, Ospreay Okada spot, which I think is the quintessential spot of the rivalry of the Rainmaker versus the Spanish Fly, where Okada goes to the Rainmaker and he does the Spanish Fly, where you think that you're close to the finish, and then they just do 10 more minutes. But I think the kind of highlight of the Okada Ospreay match, and why it is the pinnacle for match of the year, and we had maybe 3 candidates just in the past week for Match of the Year already in 2022. But just the reversals of signature moves, which is a staple in New Japan, but the way in which they reversed them was nothing that I was expecting. Like, I mean, I watch New Japan. I watch it all the time. I know their movesets. And if I was laying out a match, I would not have come up with this because they are way more clever than I am. And whenever Okada did the Stormbreaker from, like, a roll-up, like, I lost my mind. Like, it was like 10 minutes into the match, and Okada pulls out a Stormbreaker. And these guys are just absolutely next level. And, I mean, I see a lot of stuff online, and there's a lot of incels out there, and I'm a Roman Reigns fan, but, like, there is nothing in WWE, and only rarely, really, in AEW that can approach the level of New Japan storytelling and athleticism. Like, we get a glimpse finally of a promotion that we love, that has been very, I don't want to say down in the dumps, but has had a very rough time. And it wasn't all great. Like, the whole cards of both nights were not, like, all great, but, like, this is why we're here. And this is my match of the year for now, and it's going to take something pretty transcendent to eclipse Okada and Ospreay.
Well, I'll just put it out there right now. I agree with everything that Zach said. The Shingo Okada match was spectacular, but it also felt like Okada. I don't even remember who I picked last week in terms of New Japan, but
Shingo.
like
I listened to it this morning.
But, like, after Okada won, it just makes so much sense. Like, if the world is going to open up soon enough, hopefully, God, fingers crossed, then it makes the most sense to have your best foot forward, which is Okada. You know, no slide on Shingo.
No slide on Will Ospreay.
No slide on Will Ospreay. But it makes sense to put Okada up there. The Shingo Okada match was incredible, but I think that they knew that Okada had to fight another match the next night against Ospreay, and
they left a little something on the table.
Left a little something on the table. The Okada Ospreay match, the way that my mind thinks about great NJPW matches is that the finish, like when they're told to go home and they have 5 or 6 minutes left, you know, it's not the same go home that WWE has, but the finishing sequences are always really good, no matter who it is, pretty much, unless it's evil. Those endings always knock it out of the park, and the last 20 minutes of Ospreay Okada felt like it was the last 5 minutes of every other main event. Like, it was fucking insane, and that's a testament to both guys. Ospreay plays the heel so good because I really want him to lose. I did not want him to win that match. He is such a fucking dick, and he's such a cocky prick that I really did want Okada. I was getting worked. I was a mark. I turned into a mark. I know it's hard for you guys to believe, but I can't say anything more about it than Zach said. You know, there was a lot of filler on these two nights, which is as to be expected because Japan is not open yet, and because they couldn't have a bunch of people from overseas. There was no Jay White. You know, I'm sure John Moxley would have been there if if he wasn't having his own personal things, and if the shit was opened up. I'm a little surprised to hear you guys talk about how much you like Tana Hoshi versus Kento. That match did not do it for me.
I will say I didn't. I think you look at it in a sense of the finish, because up until then, the match was not good. Because even though it was the only
Tana Hoshi just seems out of place
in
a trash match like that.
Yeah, and he can do anything, but it's just not fun, like, at all. Like, it's just not what you want to see. But the ending was such a spectacle that I feel like you kind of put some rose-colored glasses on.
And they did tell a good story. I watched both nights all the way through, and even the 3-on-3 matches, which I usually kind of go past just because. But they did tell the story with Tana Hoshi the night before.
He's like, man,
with the mega coaches. With the mega coaches, he was mad at Kenta, and he wanted to win. The match that really stood out to me was Jeff Cobb versus Naido. That match was fucking awesome, and Jeff Cobb is on his way to being a major player. I want Jeff Cobb to win the G1 next year or the New Japan Cup.
Yeah, I know that you said this on Twitter. Why didn't he win that match? I don't understand why.
Come on, guys.
Well, he didn't win that match. I think he didn't win that match because it's the 50th anniversary, and it makes the most sense to have Okada versus Naido. So Naido had to look strong. I thought it was weird that he didn't win until he came out. I was like, okay, who's going to come out Okada after he beat Ospreay? And it was Naido, and that makes sense. That they didn't want to be Cobb. Yeah, they didn't want to be Cobb, which I get because Naido he's a made guy, and that would just be making Cobb, I guess.
I feel like it only makes sense if Cobb's gonna win that title eventually, because otherwise, like, you're just feeding a Naito to Okada. Why not feed Cobb to Okada, which has been done
no,
before?
you don't want to do that just yet.
There was a couple booking decisions, though, that if WWE were to make those booking decisions, and I know we're talking apples and, granny apples, but if WWE were to make the decision to have Sonata go over Great-O-Khan and have Naido go over Cobb, that you're not really making new stars, right?
Okay.
But I will say, though, and I think I know what you're going to say, Jason, they have been in a holding pattern for a while now at New Japan because they are on the other side of the world, and it's not that they're not playing to the East, but they know that there is money to be made in the West, especially with AEW as popular as it is, and like I said before, they need to put the best foot forward.
And Impact, because they are on Access now,
right.
Which is another big announcement.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to that point, and Jason, you can go ahead here in just a moment, even though you're the quintessential Naito mark and you're not going to argue against them. But
see,
like, Cobb is the guy to go across the pond. You know what I mean? Like, it was just very surprising to me because
so is Ospreay in that
G1.
I mean, in that, if you're thinking that way, so is Ospreay.
But at the same time, like, Ospreay would have been the champion then, and you can't sacrifice your champion because of the travel conditions. But Cobb is a guy that can go across the pond, whereas Ospreay as champion could not. But it was just surprising. I'm not saying it's better or worse. It was just surprising.
And Okada's the man.
Obviously, Okada's the man, number one. Number two, despite my flag waving for Naido, I was surprised when it happened that Naido won. But then the more and more they talked about the 50th anniversary show and then Okada won, then it made sense. I'm not going to defend Sonata beating Great-O-Khan. That doesn't make sense. I thought that was the one where Great-O-Khan was going to win. And I thought United Empire was going to reverse the curse from Wrestle Kingdom 15 when they lost all of their matches. They're going to reverse the curse and win all three matches. And obviously that curse still stands because all three guys lost, neither here nor there. I'm not going to sit up here and say that I thought that Naido was going to win. I expected Jeff Cobb to win. It was a bit of a surprise. It was kind of a quick win on top of it. The story was good. The finish was kind of quick. I'm not going to say I can't piggyback on what Bill said that the wrong guy won, because when you stop and look at it big picture, the right guy won. If Naido is probably not going to be the champion again. The double champion reign was probably
ever?
The double champion reign was probably his swan song as champion, as top dog. Okay? So if there's somebody between those two guys, and I said it on Twitter when I was watching it, the winner of this match is probably going to be, especially if it's Jeff Cobb, that's the guy that I expect to win to call out Okada if he wins.
Jeff Cobb has had a spectacular year.
Losing to Naido is not the worst thing in the world.
No,
by
and
any stretch
I'm
of
not saying he's
imagination.
buried by any means. Like,
Okay.
don't let
No.
my position think
You
I'm not speaking in WWE terms that he's like buried or anything.
No,
He's
but
not
you
at all.
Jeff Cobb is going to get his shot at
Also,
Okada, whether, like you
that-
said, at New Japan Cup or at G1.
Yes.
He's going to get his shot at
Yes.
Okada.
I hope it's the
longer
G1.
The longer you put it off, though, I think the bigger you build this match up, and then it will be
And that-
a big-time matchup.
That is something that New Japan does. I could easily see Jeff Cobb winning next G1 because that is something that they do. I mean, it took, like, look at Ibushi, man. He won 3 fucking times in a row.
Yes.
Before he fucking
Yeah, and that's the thing
and it
about
made it better.
you know, we give AEW all their flowers for telling a long-term story with Kenny Omega versus Adam Page. New Japan has 4, 5, 6 long-term storylines going at a time.
Okay, so
They really do.
that's why I'm not worried about Jeff Cobb.
No, neither am I.
ultimately.
Neither am I. The booking is solid except for evil matches.
I was going to say, I think I get a little too worked up about the House of Torture stuff. And then I think that New Japan's in the dumps as far as booking because I get a little too worked up about House of Torture. And I need to, like, kind of step back and do some big picture stuff.
Well, the House of Torture
that's-
stuff is dumb. Like, it is so dumb. The Evil versus Ishii match was no fun to watch, and it was basically no fun to watch from the very beginning. They didn't even give me a chance to get into it to then get disappointed. It was 3
Yeah, they give
minutes.
us like 3 minutes of good wrestling before it just went to fuck.
Yeah, and I love Ishii.
Yeah,
And Evil is a capable wrestler.
Yeah.
He's really good. Do you remember 2 years ago when Evil was like the shit? Like, there's
he
a
would have good
capable wrestler
G1
there.
matches, and I would look forward to the Evil G1 match. Now anything with
It's too much.
yeah, it
It's
is.
just
It
too
is
much.
okay. You guys were mad about Bullet Club. This shit is Bullet Club times 10. It is way over the top.
The Dangerous Techers lost the tag titles to Goto and Yoshihashi.
Called it.
And
Ditto.
not only did they lose to them, Goto and Yoshihashi fucking dominated them. It was kind of a one-sided match, a strangely planned out, booked match in terms of what I thought going in, but I was into it. I said on the podcast last week that I liked that Yoshihashi and Goto, I liked their G1 match. It was one of my favorite G1 matches that they had because it was two guys that had nothing to win, but they decided to go for it, and they ended up having a 29.5-minute match, I think. I think it
Something
almost
ridiculous. Yeah.
it almost went the distance.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who won, but I'm glad to see Dangerous Techers have held the titles for a while, and so that was very cool to me. Zach texted us on our text thread and talked about Taichi's commitment to his gimmick, and I also appreciate that.
Damn, Skip, you boy. I was about to say, there is nothing in the world that is going to stop that man from singing his song.
What a
Dude,
fun wrestler.
It
That
is
is
so
fun.
Japan. So, like, not only a little insight into people, like, for the listeners, like, insight into me, like, I'm a total Japanophile. Like, I mean, I watch anime. I'm doing Japanese on Duolingo. You know, like, this is not the only Japanese shit that I'm into. And Taichi's gimmick is so Japan, and it could not exist anywhere else for him to just lip sync into a microphone so obviously. And they're doing the face off in their fucking tag match, and he is holding the microphone and he's still lip syncing to this fucking ridiculous song and this Phantom of the Opera bullshit. And dude, I love it, and like I'm here for it. And Mio Abe just adds to it, and oh man, it's so good.
So 2 more things we got to bring up before we move off of New Japan. The first one being maybe the worst booking decision of the night, which was Yano lost to Suzuki.
Suzuki is going to act a plum fucking fool with this KOPW stipulations. It is just going to be all kinds of mayhem. Well, it's Young Lions, getting thrown into this mix.
Well,
I cannot wait for Suzuki to get a twist onto this.
We had a Shima appearance. It was Shima, which I think I'm pronouncing right. It's Cima, but it's pronounced like you would say Shelly. Shima, right? Yeah. And he's Chinese, and I sound like the guy from Boogie Nights where it's like, that's Cosmo. He's Chinese. He's Chinese, and he fought Minoru Suzuki, Chase Owens, and Toru Yano. Suzuki gets the win over Toru Yano. I think it lasted like 7 minutes, maybe. That's probably all it should last. You know, it's a comedy. It's a comedy belt, basically, that hopefully Suzuki brings a little less comedy to, and maybe Suzuki. I guess the belt gets dropped every year. In the new year, it starts over, right?
Yeah, it resets basically.
It's renewed. Yeah. I'm just hoping a young lion doesn't lose an eye to that sharp ass poker on the fucking KOPW, trophy or whatever.
And then the other match, it does. It looks sharp. It looks like a wing or something.
Dude, I don't even pay attention to that motherfucker. I'm like, break it. The
other match that we haven't really talked about was El Desperado versus Harombu Takahashi, which was that's what you want in a, what do you call it, a cruiserweight match? I guess a cruiserweight match. It was an insane match. Just completely insane.
It was a Harombu match. So essentially Desperado beat Harombu in his own game in the Tokyo Dome. So Harombu has a hole to dig himself out of because there was no Kanemaru spraying whiskey. There wasn't anything like that. Like, Desperado came out all in white and he beat Harombu at his own game, and the match fucking ruled, and it was a surprise. That was a surprise to me.
No, I agree totally. The first 5 minutes was basically them trading, chops for between the two of them or whatever the case may be. At that point, I was like, okay, now I can kind of see where this thing is kind of going. I don't know if, and this is just me kind of peeking forward because Kevin Kelly was kind of saying something about this. Chris Charlton kind of teased it. I'm not sure if Hiromu's days in the junior heavyweight division are numbered. It kind of sounded like it was just from what they were saying on commentary. If it is, then, I'm not sure what they're talking about with the New Japan Cup, but maybe if they're doing it the way they've traditionally done it and been doing it with all heavyweights and no young lions, maybe this is a chance for Hiromu to get into the New Japan Cup, be introduced as a heavyweight, kind of go from there. If they do it like they've done it before, maybe a couple years ago, I think it was right around the start of the pandemic, they did the New Japan Cup, and it was basically any and everybody, and Hiromu's basically in that mix again. So,
shit, Shingo was BOSJ, for the longest time.
This is true story. So, there's something to be said about that. I guess, it's a two-part story with that match. Is number one, like I said at the beginning, Desperado finally exercises his demons over Hiromu, beating him at his own game. And number two, what's next for Hiromu? Is he going to stay in the junior heavyweight division, or is it time for him to finally move up?
One thing I didn't mention before we move on, they have redone the whole IWGP kind of baseline. Before they do the matches, they show the 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, it's a new lineage, and I still hate that belt, man. It looks like the Divas belt had sex with Cody's neck tattoo. Like, I fucking hate that belt. Like, they need to bring back the old belt.
Welcome.
You should have just said it. Yeah,
look, they're all lighting up. It's all fucked up. He's heating up. I was trying to do it. He's heating up. That's a good joke. Listen, I was thinking about that when Okada held it up. I was like, oh, man, that's a shitty looking belt. I've never really thought about it before. And I just realized that I never think about what any belt looks like. It just never even occurs to me what belts look like. When people are like, what's the best looking belt of all time? It's like, I do not care. It just never occurs to me. I don't know.
See, damn that. Okay. I get it. Okada basically had to sign off on this new title belt because he was one of the big proponents against it. You know, the whole idea against, you know, double titles, the whole shebang. So, I mean...
Well, I'm not saying that I'm better than you guys for not thinking about it. It's just not something that ever occurs to me. It's really not.
That was a big deal. I remember when it first happened.
Yeah, I remember. We talked about it on this podcast.
I was getting ready to say, I'm the total opposite. I look at the belt. You know what I'm saying? I like to see the belt. I think it's cool. You know, it just adds something. It doesn't make it any bigger.
Give me one letter and then a plus or a minus if you want to. If you had to judge, if you had to give Wrestle Kingdom 16 a grade, what would you give it, Jason?
I hate you.
What would you give it? Compared to other Wrestle Kingdoms, not compared to Monday Night Raw.
Oh, you can't compare this to other. Well, I mean, you can if you want to. C+.
Zach?
Compared to other Wrestle Kingdoms, I will say B- because if we look at not last year, because last year was the first of the 2-night situation, I feel like that's going to be an ongoing thing. But if you remember in 2019, they had that quick 4-hour show and it was amazing, but we were just like, oh my God, if they would have just given these guys more time. But now, instead of just having this amazing card where they give people more time, there's this extra filler. But the quality of the matches, of the main events, or like the top 3 matches are still great. So I can't put it into that C range, but otherwise, it is not to the level of previous Wrestle Kingdoms, even though we had arguably match of the year that is going to be very difficult to transcend. But yeah, B-. It was a fun 2 nights.
I guess you missed the part where I said give me one letter and maybe a plus or minus.
Yep, totally missed that.
I was going to say,
still give you 300. You don't think Jason could have done that?
I'm not saying I did what you asked, boss.
I give it a B-. Let's get to that 2 count.
Don't do it.
Welcome.
Doesn't matter. Ding, ding, ding.
I told you, don't do it.
All right, Zach, what's the 2 count?
Oh, shit.
2 count. We got all things AEW. So let's just start out with Friday. Well, actually, before Friday, let's just start chronologically. TK put out a tweet to promote Rampage, but this was post Big Swole doing a interview with Fightful, kind of airing her grievances about AEW, and TK put out. I think it is New Year's Eve, right? So it's Friday, New Year's Eve. I think TK probably had like one too many White Claws before he put out this tweet. I'm just guessing. I don't know him.
He drinks White Claws for billionaires, though. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
We don't even know what they are.
Yeah, I have no idea what billionaires drink. He had a little bit too much of the bubbly, let's just say. And yeah, like he was just like, you know, he doesn't take criticism very well. So I will preface that with I listen to a lot of these media scrums and very kind of cognizant of kind of how he reacts, and he does not react to criticism well at all. And even looking at Twitter after this, there was plenty of people that were posting about criticism that they had put about the Fulham Soccer League, where they said Tony Khan jerks off dogs, and he was so mad that he like responded so vehemently that people were like, well, maybe he does jerk off dogs. Like he's just like that level of insecure about his properties. But essentially, Big Swole put out, aired her grievances, and that was her story, right? That's her experience, and I do not want to discount that, especially as a white cisgendered male. I'm not going to discount Big Swole's grievances with the company that she worked for, that I am 3,000 miles from, and have only an ancillary fan base, experience too. But I read her interview, and some of it seemed like justifiable, qualms with the company. A little bit of it kind of read like sour grapes to me, and that's just my viewpoint of it. But Tony Khan came back and said, hey, watch Rampage, and by the way, I released Big Swole because or didn't renew Big Swole's contract because he's not a good wrestler, and this set off a firestorm.
Well, hold on. That was kind of it. But for those that aren't on Twitter, for those that aren't following, this is let me give a more accurate representation of what he tweeted. She tweeted that there's not enough diversity in the company, and if she was given more of a chance, she could have done better. Okay. Tony Khan tweets back, the two highest up CEOs in the company are both brown, me and Mehta, Mehta. I don't know who that is. And
I think it's like Mega or Mega.
Mega. Sorry. Yeah, and then he kind of gives a list of all his black friends, and he's like, we have. He names the two guys from Private Party. He names Powerhouse Hobbs. He name checks the Lucha Brothers. He name checks. I don't even think he put Jade Cargill into there.
No, he was like, so and so Jay Cargill has done well in the TBS tournament, things along those lines, kind of, checking the accomplished.
It was kind of
list box off.
And then he says it all, and then he goes, Big Swole got cut because I didn't think her wrestling was good enough. And then it said, watch AEW Rampage Street Fight tonight, which is, let's admit it. Come on, let's call that what it is. That is Trumpian. Like, to turn a criticism into some kind of, hey, but don't forget to watch Friday Night Rampage. That is, it's just not a good look. Okay, go ahead, Zach.
Oh, yeah, no, and I'm not condoning the tweet. I'm not saying it was a good move because it was a bad move. Totally, for sure. And it set off a total shitstorm on Twitter. I actually logged off Twitter for the whole night because there were so many people, checking in and also just kind of morphing it, not even into the conversation that it actually existed in, just a lot of tribalism happening. And that's why you, as a head of a company and a CEO, kind of just keep yourself insulated from this. You just don't respond in that manner, especially in a forum that only allows for 240 characters.
Right.
You just don't do it.
Zach texted both of us this. And the first thing I said was, somebody needs to remind him that there's always an option to not tweet. You don't have to tweet. And he could have not tweeted anything and been fine. It was a bad look. But instead of, let's just break this down to brass tacks, because, we do have a person of color here on the podcast.
No, we got to get our piece in before Jason can talk.
Jason Bell, black man.
That's what they say.
Hey, Jason, can you speak for your people?
Well, I'll do the best I can, my friend.
You're so articulate.
I do what I can.
So the bottom line is, Big Swole is saying, there's not enough representation and not enough black representation, and it kind of got confounded with diversity, which is not necessarily what Black Swole was saying. Or Big Swole was saying.
Jesus Christ.
It's not necessarily what Big Swole was saying, but what do you think as an AEW watcher?
It's a lot to unpack. Ultimately,
I agree. Now let me tell you what I think about it.
I do get what Big Swole is saying. There are people, Scorpio Sky is somebody that I've kind of been champion for quite some time. Obviously a man of color. He's got a win over Jericho. He's the first of the AEW Tag Team Champions. He was a guy that I thought that could have been in the discussion to be in the heavyweight championship level. Hell, even for the TNT title, I thought that he was on the way to do that. Obviously, that's been derailed. So, I mean, just for that example alone, I think that's kind of, maybe a discussion to be had. Now, from there, I see people, they're saying that, you can just put fill in the blank into the title picture and make that work. You can't do that. I mean, let's just say Shawn Dean, because that's the guy that is kind of in play for Wednesday night. Shawn Dean couldn't be inserted to the title picture. Powerhouse Hobbs could, but it would still take him a little bit. They would have to build him up the way they did with Wardlow, for example. Another big guy, just happens to be the opposite color. You would have to put the investment time in. It's just not going to happen overnight. It's not as bad as WWE, who's dropped the ball for multiple decades and just got around to the fact of doing it with Rock and or Kofi, depending on who you decide is the blacker of the two. That being said, Tony Khan didn't have to respond, and he chose to do so. That was the biggest mistake of it all. The booking, you can work around that. You can say, I think somebody said it between, I think it was either Two Beer or Reef. One of them said that the tweet should have just said, okay, basically we'll just do better or we'll try to work it out. He decided to fire back, and that was the biggest problem with it all.
I mean, he's a billionaire. He was born a billionaire. He's been a billionaire for a long time. He, like Zach said, he doesn't take criticism very well.
I've heard, so just for an example, like there was a woman on a media scrum who asked him about the women's division in a constructive way and was like, asking about, the NWA, he allowed the NWA, or he allowed women from AEW to wrestle in NWA in St. Louis. And he was talking about, they were, just asking about that, and he was like, and then he immediately just got defensive and said, I promoted this, and those people were there on my dime, and he essentially just made it all about his money and his time and his effort instead of anything else. And I think they're doing a good job with their women's division based on the people that they have. I think they're doing a great job with diversity, just in my opinion. Right. Like, and I mean, like, I could be wrong. But, I was in our text thread, I was like listing off all of the people that have been stars and that they're making as stars, like Nyla Rose as a women's champion, as a transgender Native American with, black women's champion. Like, that's like historic. And
well, what? There's been 4 women's champions. 2 of them have been from Japan. One of them's Nyla Rose.
Japan. One of them's a transgender person of color. There's only been 4, and that's the thing is, like, a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, there hasn't been a black men's champion," and it's like, dude, there's been 4, and it's just like you got to do it when the time is right. Like Jason said, like, you can't thrust people in there for the sake of diversity. Like, that's like the straw man of affirmative action, right? People are like, oh, well, people just have these jobs because they're people of color. And it's like, no, that's not accurate.
If they threw Powerhouse Hobbs into the main event tomorrow, and then next month he won it from Hangman Page, your reaction would be, that's bad storytelling. Like, that's the soft bigotry of low expectations. That's a thing that exists, and that's not what we want. What I don't know what he could be doing better, because I don't think that when Tony Khan started AEW, he expected to back into Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. And, I don't think that he expected these things. And I don't think that the booking is bad. Obviously, I think the booking is very good. I think that the tweet was bad. Really bad. Mm-hmm. Like, that's really all it is. Like, the tweet was bad. All you can say is, yes, we should do better, and we will try to do better in the future. And instead of saying Big Swole's wrestling wasn't good enough, you could just say we wish her best in her future endeavors.
Totally.
That's all you have to do. It's really just a bad tweet. And I'm not going to try to shortchange like Leo Rush's reaction to this, and Leo Rush was very mad. There were some people that were very mad about this,
and went back on it real quick.
I'm certainly not going to
do.
Yeah,
what's funny is, and you know why? Because he probably had a conversation face to face, which is what all of this tribalism and stuff. Like, dude, Powerhouse Hobbs came out and talked about how happy he was with his position, and people were attacking Powerhouse Hobbs. It's like, it's all the tribalism shit. And like this goes as like a whole kind of microcosm of our current society at large. If you could just have a conversation face to face with the people that you think that you disagree with, you probably don't actually disagree with them.
And also,
like,
Jay Lethal is not being buried on AEW Dark. Like, you wouldn't bring Jay Lethal in just to bury him on AEW Dark unless you had some sort of actual personal beef with the guy. Like, that's stupid. I'm kind of like WWE's got kind of got the lockdown on all the big black star wrestlers. I mean, they do. They got Lashley. They got fucking Kofi Kingston. They got Big E Langston.
Okay, but I mean,
what do you mean? What do you mean about big and black?
Shelton Benjamin. They got Cedric Alexander. You don't think Cedric Alexander would fucking do something in AEW tomorrow if they got him?
Who's also Big Swole's husband.
Is that true?
Right. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably not going to happen at this point. But I don't think you have to be the big black guy. I mean, I think that's kind of the reason why I like AEW is that they, the size doesn't matter.
No, when I say big, I mean popular.
Oh, okay.
I mean just popular guys.
Keith
like
Lee
if Kofi
is on
Keith
the
Lee
horizon, and that might be the one that might turn this whole thing around. Where now you have somebody that you can legitimately plug in, similar to Adam Cole, baby, to Bryan Danielson, to other guys that I had hopes for, Andrade, another guy that's been on AEW Dark just to talk Jay Lethal for 30 seconds. I just saw that he was on Dark. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of it, but I'm willing to let this thing play out because, like I said before with AEW, they at least, for me, have earned the benefit of the doubt where WWE, where we're going to talk about here in a little bit, has not.
All right.
Yeah. Do you want a token black champion that Brock Lesnar squashes a few months from now, or do you want long-term storytelling? Because that's happened to both the New Day. So.
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's get on to the in the ring action. Zach, tell us about AEW.
Yeah. First thing I want to talk about, because I do not want it to get discounted amongst all of the other amazing wrestling that's happening this week, is, even though it wasn't the first match, the women's match, Tay Conti and Anna Jay versus the Bunny and Penelope Ford. These women went out there and really showed us how it's done. I was so into this match. It was absolutely brutal. I don't normally love these types of matches, but this was such a, I don't know, like, styles clash is the right word, culture shock isn't the right word, but it was very shocking to see such beautiful people just absolutely destroying their bodies for my enjoyment.
I did not believe it when I heard everybody talking about it. I just watched it right before Jason came over. I did not believe it. I was like, there's no way this match was this brutal or this good. And it was both.
Check and check.
It was awesome.
Christ.
I about jumped out of my seat. Like, I was laying in my bed, like, with my back against the wall, sitting up with my back against the wall, watching it on my TV, and I almost jumped out of my bed whenever Anna Jay wrapped the fucking barbed wire around her.
I was just like, dude,
arm.
Okay. And she's choking Bunny out. I was like, all right, you can just tap out right now. And it went for like 30 seconds. It felt like, 5 minutes. I'm like, girl, if you don't tap, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's over. Okay, put the pride aside, for Christ's sake. Shit. No, it was really good. The botched, I won't even call it a botched spot, but I mean, Penelope Ford is maybe a $105. She's lucky she didn't take her fucking head off on the ring.
Or knock out some of Tay Conte's teeth.
That too. That's the only, spot that, can be called into question. Tables sometimes just don't break. Grown-ass men go through tables, and they just don't break. So I'm not even going to knock it for that. Outside of that...
Welcome to Japan.
Yeah, right. Outside of that, I thought the match was, surprisingly good for, a sandwich match on Rampage or whatever. Truth be told, it was better than the main event.
Oh, it was. Definitely. It was really fun. Really fun. Really fun.
Totally. So,
color. It was all good.
So, I mean, we can mention the main event. Cody beat Ethan Page. Kind of going back to Jason's comment about Scorpio Sky, like, I could see, there's no way that Cody doesn't face Scorpio Sky because of the American Top Team thing. It's not just an Ethan Page thing. So I'm still kind of holding out hope or holding out, it's not like Scorpio Sky's done if he doesn't win this match, but I think it's a compelling match for Scorpio Sky versus Cody Rhodes. So
also, Anthony Bowens versus Darby Allin was really good too.
Yeah, totally solid. Fun little Max Caster rap. Like I forget how he buried Sting, but it was good. I popped. I don't remember exactly what he said. I don't know if you guys did.
He talked about how he couldn't get it up or something.
Yeah, and also that he wasn't trained, which is totally true because essentially, like, Sting came up with Ultimate Warrior. They were the Dingo Warriors or whatever. That was their tag team, and essentially they wrestled for like 2 weeks. And like, nah, we're good. Like, we got this. So like, they did not train at all. They were just a couple weightlifting dudes. And I just thought it was very inside and very funny. Not that everybody would get that joke, but
now let's talk about Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Page 2.
Oh yeah,
it was for the belt. It opened up Dynamite again. They had the judges who were Mark Henry, Jerry Lynn, and no BS Paul White. Did you like this?
Right there. That's Tony Khan fucking just being petty Crocker.
Did you like this match better or worse than the 1 hour long draw, Jason?
Ooh, I liked it. I liked the first one a little better, just for the simple fact that it was more of the story being told. The second one, I think, it feels like the story's been wrapped up. The second one was much more violent. It came out swinging. Both guys were bleeding at different points. Both guys were, suffering from effects of the match. I don't think that neither one is a bad match. I mean, we're just.
I mean, which one was greater though? Neither one's a bad match.
I lean slightly towards the first one, just because, like I said, for an hour, they told a really good story where ultimately nobody comes out ahead, but Hangman gets himself over as champion. This one to me felt like a completion of the first match, so I'll go with the first one.
Zach, which one do you like better?
I'm going to echo Jason's sentiments. I like the first one slightly more, but I really liked the second one for its brutality, and it was more of a TV match, whereas the first one was a pay-per-view match on TV. And I think if folks were able to see it without the commercial breaks, they would have agreed. But holy shit. I mean, they're both 5-star matches. I mean, Daniel Bryan and I did it. I didn't even mean to. I did it on accident.
That's what it's called here.
So yeah, Daniel Bryan is just the absolute man. And also, Hangman Page, I've seen some people say that he has failed as champion, and that is because this guy's out here having the time of his life, and people are behind him, and he is drawing ratings. And yes, Bryan Danielson is part of that, but like, dude, like, these matches are transcendent. Like, if these matches would have been 20 years ago, you'd have been talking about them we've been talking about them still. And now, because of the state of wrestling, we might only be talking about them for the next few months until the next big thing. And that's a testament to how great these guys are. But I think the first match was better for my taste. Some people might think of it as more boring, but I think of it as more methodical and more psychological. And that's what I watch wrestling for, because I am personally an academic and an intellectual, even though I'm a drunk and stoned individual most of the time. That's just how that's how I identify myself.
Oh yeah, that's how we all identify you too.
So yeah, I think I like the first one, but between 5-star match and a 5-star match, like they're both awesome.
All right, you guys are both marks. The second one was better. The second one was violent. They both got color. The story told in the second one was that Daniel Bryan was not going to let himself get hit by the buckshot lariat, and then he eventually got hit by the buckshot lariat. One of them put him down. It was 30 minutes. It was fucking perfect. I loved it. The second thing that I want to say about that match is that Daniel Bryan is the best wrestler in the entire world. It is Daniel Bryan, and everybody else is just they're a level below him. Everybody else.
Everybody else.
Honestly,
everybody else.
In North American wrestling, you are not wrong.
I'm talking about
best doing it right now.
I watched 8 hours, maybe more, of Japanese wrestling, and there are guys in that wrestling promotion that I love. Daniel Bryan's the best. Daniel Bryan could do what any other one of those guys could do in the East or the West or the North or the South. I don't care if you're black, white, or purple.
That's a hot take.
That's what racists say.
Actually, I do. I'm not really into purple people.
Daniel Bryan is the best wrestler on the planet, bar none.
Wow.
I will say. So the only folks that I will say that really, in his league, right? There's Okada, Shingo, Ospreay, and then Omega. And I mean, he's top 5 for me. Those are my top 5 wrestlers, like, in the world right now. Dude, can you restricted and he was able to go to New Japan, how much more we were talking about him being the best in the world?
Of course.
He is. You're not wrong.
Of course.
At all.
Thank you. That feels good. He's eating up.
I guess I just have to see it for myself. Knock on wood, it happens where Okada either comes here or Bryan Danielson goes to Japan. Do not get me wrong. Bryan Danielson is doing incredible work with Hangman Page. He's gotten him over as champ. I don't get any criticism of what Hangman Page has done to this point. I just, like I said, I get it. Okada is back. It's hard for me to get, to get off of that train at this point. That's just me.
Next up on, you getting cold, Jason?
Hell yeah, nigga.
Do you want gloves?
No, go ahead.
I got gloves.
Go.
I got gloves inside. Go get you gloves? Is that what you're saying?
I'll go get the gloves.
Oh, guys, you would not believe the work that I just house.
They're in
grab another
they're in
beer.
the closet. They're in the coat closet. Go in there.
I just came in the house to get another beer. My wife's like, "Are you drinking?" And I showed her. I was like, "I got a non-alcoholic beer." She doesn't know that it's my 9th beer.
I can't tell you how cold it is out here. Oh, Jason's going to the total wrong place. No, not there, Jason. Jason, not there. No. Oh God, he is high. Oh. Anyway, what I was no, Jason. Not there. Not there. Jason. Not there. Not there. The coat closet. Coat closet. It's so fucking cold out here.
Oh, it's cold here. It's
Come out here and talk. Come out here and talk about wrestling. I'll get it for you. Here he goes. He's trying to act like a hard ass, not wearing gloves. We're keeping all this in the podcast too.
I don't own gloves. Shit.
Yeah. You need gloves, man.
Are you really still recording?
Oh yeah, we're totally still recording. I'll say that. God forbid we edit anything out. Now, what are we talking about? Yeah, that's what you get. Making fun of me. That's what you got the headphones still on. fucking with me.
We were talking about Tony Khan saying the N-word on live TV.
Whoa, when the fuck did this happen?
It's just now. You need to react.
Oh,
On Twitter only. You can't say anything. You just got to say it on Twitter, 240 characters only.
Shit, I was about to say, my tweet will be quick. You fucked up. I'm about to say, Vince still ain't gotten over that shit, and that's been at least a decade ago. Goddamn. So I was saying, you ain't learned your lesson? What the fuck?
It's funny because I think he got over it the minute that it happened.
No. I was getting ready to say, every now and then I see that Joker pop up where it's like, you know, if it's something against Vince or, you know, Vince doesn't like, you know, black people or something along those lines, that Joker pops up. And especially, you know, with the Booker T being in that same clip, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, he pops his catchphrase or whatever. He's like, you know, no, he did not just say that. I mean, it's don't get me wrong. It's funny as fuck, but I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. All right, shit. Talk about Dynamite, nigga. Let's go.
All right, cool. We'll just keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought we were just.
No, fuck him. Let's go.
I love it. I love that everybody gets to see behind the curtain of how just fucked up everything is in the BFR world.
Right.
Shit, what happened? There's some stuff that happened after that match. So we had MJF come out against what is his name?
Sean Dean.
Sean Dean, yes. And so I actually called it. Like, as soon as this happened, I knew what was going to happen. Not because I'm like super smart, but it was very telegraphed. And I thought it was intelligent because they never do DQs. But MJF comes out to face Sean Dean. CM Punk runs out and gets in the ring. Of course, MJF runs away because that's the story. CM Punk then gives the go to sleep to Sean Dean, essentially giving MJF a loss in the DQ. And because the AEW records reset at the new year, gives him a loss. So MJF is 0-1, and he's going for the title. And this is a great story. You know, last week we were talking about, they just said that they're done with each other. Is that really true or not? Well, obviously it's not true. And then we have a heated promo battle, which was phenomenal, where MJF basically says, like, you compared me to Roddy Piper. Did you only do that because you're worried that I'm as good as Roddy Piper, who is someone who can actually main event a WrestleMania, which is the line that I said that he should have said back in their first promo battle.
Cold-blooded.
So he actually says it, which is hilarious and awesome. And then CM Punk comes back, mega heated, which was great. And he says, he's like, go ahead. You go to the Fed. You main event night 4 of the buy one, get one extravaganza. And then you can come back as soon as you're released faster than you last in the sack.
Dude, that shit was like, God. Oh, no, shots fired.
Dude, if you're one of those people that says, they reference WWE too much, like, I don't have any sympathy for you. Like, you can like what you like, but the fact that they did it in that context, it's perfect. Like,
no, go ahead.
It's perfect. Like, of course you want to reference WWE in regards to CM Punk because he got done dirty there, and that's the whole reason he left wrestling for 7 fucking years. Like, you're an idiot if you don't reference it. Like, they do not ignore wrestling history in this. And also, his comeback was phenomenal because it buries WWE, which is their main competition. Like, it is ridiculous. Like, none of these people grown up in the same United States of America that I've grown up in, where Coke and Pepsi have been in this battle for, you know, the last forever, which, like, turned me into an absolute fucking socialist to where I just can't even stand capitalist America. Like, of course. Like, Like, do the
Sorry.
fucking thing that makes people mad. Like, this is heat, man. Like, dude, like, I don't know. I imagine fucking Bully Ray was just jerking off to this shit super hard because the heat. Oh, the heat.
I guess you guys are talking about MJF and CM Punk.
We are talking about MJF and CM Punk.
It was a great promo segment.
No, it was shots fired both ways. I love the fact that, like you said, MJF came back with the Roddy Piper line, and then the CM Punk comeback was just brutal. I mean, brutal in the sense that it's true. I mean, ultimately, if MJF went to WWE in 2024, he can be released within that year, and nothing would change.
It is such a good promo move for MJF over and over again to talk about how he's going to go to WWE. It is actually genius.
Yeah.
Oh, because it only benefits him because he's going to get a much bigger paycheck in 2024. Because
Well, I mean, it also
nobody
benefits
wants-
AEW because it's funny.
Oh, 100%. And I don't think MJF's going to WWE, but I do think that he is smart enough to recognize that he needs to play that same game that everybody else has played.
Oh, yeah.
And-
I was going to say, the Kevin Owens blueprint has been set out there. And regardless if he goes to AEW, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, he got his payday. And ultimately, that's the biggest thing when it comes to the talent.
All right.
Shit, Edge came to Vince and said, they offered me $3 million. And
What you got?
yeah, what you got? And Vince is like, okay, like, here you go. Like, there's certain people he doesn't want to lose, and there are certain people that Vince would like to get. And MJF is certainly one of them, especially considering the dude barely wrestles. Like, all he does is talk. That's Raw in a nutshell. Like, Raw would be infinitely more entertaining if MJF was on it.
Yes. So we can skip past some of this other stuff. Jade Cargill almost looked like she killed Ruby Riott Ruby Soho on that finishing. I don't have a whole lot to say about that. I do have to say that last night while I was watching it, I was holding my 4-month-old daughter, Edna Guerrero, and she was completely enthralled by MJF. Just could not turn away.
Uh-oh.
I know. Not cool, right?
First motherfucker we going to have to bury.
But Jurassic Express versus Lucha Brothers was a fun match that ended gruesomely, which I wish I never would have seen. It was really...
Dude, Bill texted us to not watch the replay, and I swear to God, I rewound it like 10 times because I just couldn't help myself. It was gross. It was like Sid Vicious breaking his leg.
That's the only thing I could compare it to. That's the only thing I could compare it to in my head. I can't remember an injury that gruesome on live television other than Sid Vicious.
And, like, the people blaming Luchasaurus are fucking idiots because, dude, he chokeslammed him through the table. That was the spot. And the whole number one rule when you take a back bump is to not plant with your hand. And Ray Phoenix is super experienced, and he planted with his hand, and that sucks. And it was terrible, but it was not Luchasaurus' fault. And I feel bad for him, and I'm glad that it seems like it's only a dislocation because, oh, my God, it was
What?
It was graphic.
They said it's only a dislocation?
Yeah, he dislocated his elbow, like basically bent his elbow backwards, and he'll only be out for a few weeks.
It definitely wasn't. That is incredible to me. To me, that looked like a snapped arm. That is incredible to me.
Basically, his elbow bent backwards and dislocated. So yeah, he'll be in a cast for a few weeks, and then he'll have to rehab it.
He went
it's not
down.
a broken arm.
He went down and started calling over a guy instantly, and I was like, maybe I'm going to watch this replay again. And then I watched the replay, and I exclaimed, "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
Well, that's good news. It wasn't Luchasaurus' fault. It was a fun spot. Looked like a pretty rough spot, but
okay, and I guess that's where, if there's criticism maybe to be had, is AEW putting guys in spots where No, I mean, I'm not saying that they are.
Come on.
I'm not saying. Look. As far as I'm concerned, that was just a part of the match. Shit happens. Okay. But Bunny almost taking her head off. Now you got Phoenix getting hurt. It's not like it's an all the time thing, but it's something to talk about.
If they were less experienced, I would say so. But like all of those guys are very experienced. Bunny less so. But as far as like the men, like they've all been wrestling for a long time. And I think if you ask Phoenix, he would be like, "Oh yeah, I shouldn't have put my arm down." Like, you know what I mean? Like he's not going to.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was going to say that's the one thing. When I saw the replay, you know, fortunately I was off last night, so I got to watch. But when I saw the replay, I was like, ooh. And my knee-jerk reaction was like, yeah, he's done for a little bit. There's, no way he's coming back. But like you said, he shouldn't have put his arm down. That's just a natural reaction.
What do you think about the title change? I think it's good. Not that I think Lucha Brothers were stale or anything. I think it's good that it propels this Christian storyline and it propels Jungle Boy, because eventually, like, the whole point of Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus is not for them to be this amazing tag team. It's for Jungle Boy to be a fantastic singles wrestler, and I think this is the beginning of that happening.
I'll say this. I was a little surprised when Jurassic Express won, just because I thought this was the point where Christian was going to flip on him. Maybe, and I'm just throwing it out here, maybe Ray Phoenix getting hurt changed the plan. I'm not saying that, the plan wasn't for Jurassic Express to go over. Jurassic Express is a good team, and like you said, this is, I guess, on the Jungle Boy storyline, for lack of a better word. If ultimately he's going to have to win the titles to go to that next level. So that's fine and dandy too. My only thought was this the plan, or did they call the audible because Ray Phoenix got hurt?
I think that was a plan to begin with. It didn't seem like it was
an
audible.
With all the tag teams coming out, it seemed like it was the plan.
Yeah, it seemed like
maybe they had like 2-3 minutes left, but it seemed like it was the plan.
Yeah, I forgot about the tag teams coming out. Totally forgot about that.
Jason, stand up.
What is this, like the Untouchables?
Make you feel better. God damn, it's fucking cold out here.
Stamp your feet.
We ain't got a whole lot of time out here, guys.
I've got some hot hands, but I'm 2,000 miles from y'all.
All right, so that's gonna do it for our AEW. Let's get to that 3 count.
Don't do it.
Global Media.
I don't know what's going on here.
Jesus Christ.
No, I'm hitting the right button.
He totally is. He totally is. That's like, don't do it.
The thing's all fucked up. It's like 7 degrees out here.
Oh, shit.
Jason's getting ready to freeze to death, man. We're going to go inside. We're going to watch the challenge. We got like a half-hour podcast left. Let's get that 3 count. Ding, ding, ding. We're going to talk about WWE. And the big story in WWE was that Roman Reigns tested positive for COVID.
Jesus Christ.
So all of our predictions were thrown out the window, and Brock Lesnar got thrown to the Fatal 4-Way against Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, and Big E Langston, who was the champion. Brock Lesnar ends up going over. Brock Lesnar is now the champion. So the 2 champions, heavyweight champions in WWE now, are Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. My biggest problem, I thought the match was fun. I thought it could have been longer. I loved Kevin Owens' performance in it. Him doing the Brock Lesnar bouncing up and down after he put Brock Lesnar down was cool as fuck. My biggest problem with it was that A, Big E got pinned, and B, Big E didn't come out last. I really didn't appreciate Big E not coming out last on the pay-per-view for the match. for his entrance. Brock Lesnar came out last. What do you think, Jason?
You know, it wasn't Kofi Mania, but it felt like Kofi Mania when Big E won it. It felt another like a good feel-good moment, and now you kind of snuck it away from me again. I was at work finding out that Roman Reigns had COVID, so that was the only real spoiler I had coming into that shit. So as I went home, I'm watching it, and I'm like, okay, you know, decent match, you know, but at certain points you can kind of tell what was going to happen. Big E not being introduced last was a huge spot. Brock Lesnar kind of being the de facto babyface throughout that match. He was really the only guy that was getting double teamed. He was the guy that Bobby Lashley threw spear through the barricade. He was the one guy throughout that match that seemingly was protected throughout it. Never took real big bad bumps, except for when it was double teamed by Seth and KO. I'll just say this. It's not like Big E is bad. I think they just booked him poorly. I don't think he's had a... If I'm not mistaken, he won the title in October. So he didn't have a pay-per-view win. He had a bunch of Raw losses leading up to this point. COVID might not have been the reason to take the title off of him, but it gave the excuse to do so. Okay? That's my problem with it. If you want to do it, you could have just went with Brock versus Lashley for like a special attraction, be done with that. Have the three guys or do a fatal four-way and just have Big E just off the card. So that way you kind of keep the integrity of the original match to begin with. Big E's still the champion. You can move on. I just feel like they duped me again, and I fell for it again, and that's my biggest problem with it.
What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, no, I think Jason totally hit the nail on the head. This guy, Aaron Rutkowski, posted on Twitter, which pretty much encapsulates Big E's entitled title run, because Big E is I just want to preface this by saying he is a total champion. We've been yearning for this. If you listen to the last 238 fucking episodes, we've been wanting Big E to be this guy, and they gave it to us, but only as like a token service. They didn't give it to us like we really wanted it. They gave it to us because they thought that it was advantageous, but not because they saw him as top guy material, because he won the title on September 13th. He then lost to Roman in a triple threat on the 20th, which is 1 week later. He lost to the Usos by countout on the 10th of October. Then he lost to the Rollins versus Usos on November 15th. Then he lost to Roman at Survivor Series, which even if you don't remember those other ones, you remember that one. He lost to Kevin Owens by disqualification on November 29th. Then he lost to Bobby Lashley on the 13th of December. And then, of course, he loses the title to Brock at day one. Not as fast as Kofi Kingston. It took him 8 minutes instead of 8 seconds.
Jesus
but
Christ.
he still ended up pinning the New Day guy. It's like, it's a total thing. Like, WWE did not see him as a top guy, and it's very sad
Clearly
because
not.
he has everything that they want. And it's like, dude, like, we want it. He has everything that you want. Why can't you get behind this guy? And, I mean, I understand, you know, the whole...
They can't get out their own way.
Exactly.
I'll push back on this a little bit. I'll push back on this because he's a champion, he will always be a former champion, and he will always be seen as a threat anytime he gets put into a situation where he could win the belt. And that is forever. That's The Miz That's Edge. That's Christian. That's
We haven't
Randy
talked
Orton.
about The Miz being championship material until
he was champion last year.
Until all of a sudden it became advantageous for WWE to do so.
Right, sure. But Big E will be around for a long time, and he will. I wouldn't be surprised if he won the Royal Rumble.
You're not okay. See, Michael Wallace, God bless you for it. He said the same thing. I'm gonna push back on that. So you're gonna have the guy that won Money in the Bank also win the Royal Rumble in the same fiscal year.
Fiscal year.
This is the WWE fiscal year.
Yeah, he could do that.
No,
why not?
It's never been done, number one. And number two, they're not going to do that.
It's just not something they do. That's the thing. It's like he could, and he deserves to do it based on his work and his status, but they are just not into him. It's obvious. The only two people they care about in the entire company,
all roads lead to
on
Roman.
the men's side. On the men's side are Roman and
Brock.
That's it.
All
That's
roads
all
lead to
they care
Roman.
about.
So are we looking at a unification match at WrestleMania between Brock and Roman? Is that what we're looking at?
God, I hope
I don't
not.
know if it's unification or if it's... I don't know if it's unification because I don't think they're ready to do that. But I imagine it could be title versus
Fox will
title.
lose their damn mind. They paid up almost $1 billion for that.
That's a good point. We also, on the WWE side, we saw Braun Breaker win the championship from Tommaso Ciampa on NXT. In what I would say, dare I say, a very good match. Like a really good match. Braun Breaker apparently has been wrestling for less than a year.
That was his 14th match.
That is insane that's how good that match was.
Wow.
You could tell because when he started to take off his singlet over the shoulders, he didn't do it towards the hard camera, and he remembered it and then turned towards the hard camera when he meant to do it. And so you could tell that he was
a work in progress.
He's fresh. But Ciampa made him look like $1 million. What do you think, Jason?
The tap out was a surprise. That's the only thing that was, I won't even say an issue, but I was just like, so we really gonna go ahead and put the black and gold brand down. Not the finish. I shouldn't say the finish. The result wasn't a surprise. The finish was. The match was fine. The rest of the card was fine. I'm just not an NXT guy anymore. I'll be honest. Outside of Carmelo, Braun Breaker, Malcolm Bivens, there's not much for me on NXT to really get into and really invest in. To be perfectly honest, that's just me.
What you think about it, Zach?
I actually did watch this, believe it or not, and I thought it was a really good match, and it was the ending that I expected. Called it, but yeah, I mean, all I can hope for is that WWE does the right thing with him, and he does move on to the main roster. And they treat him like a monster, and he tears through, maybe I don't know if you make him wait and win the Royal Rumble or what you do, but I think that he has it in him to be a star because he has star potential. He's a great athlete. He's obviously got it, quote unquote it. And, but this was the last vestige of the black and gold. It was like putting the black and gold to bed, and then the next day they fire a bunch of people from the black and gold.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Done.
That's not necessarily the end of the black and gold. The end of the black and gold was William Regal getting let go, future endeavored. What do you think about that, Zach?
I mean, just imagine firing William Regal. I know that you're not scouting indie talent anymore, and that was his position, to scout indie talent and also to be a coach and to be the GM. They've obviously taken him off TV. He was not the GM really anymore. But, dude, this is the dumbest shit on the planet. and you can see it. Like,
It's a different world, baby.
Every WWE, even main roster, people were just like, "This is the guy that gave me the confidence to be who I am." Like, it was just above and beyond the response that they got. William Regal was the #1 trending person on Twitter. Like, I mean, that one was baffling, but the most disgusting was
Allison Danger.
Allison Danger, who uprooted her entire life, moved from Las Vegas, had only been, chasing her dream to move from Las Vegas, uprooted her entire family to move to Orlando. She was literally picking her kid up from the first day at their new school.
Stop.
And she got the call.
Yeah, I heard that too.
In the pickup circle. Like, if anybody has kids, you know how it is. Like, you got to pick up your kids in, like, the circle, and you drive up, and, like a whole thing. She got the call that she was fired on her kid's first day at their new school because she had uprooted her entire life to be part of this company. And that is the biggest indictment that you can give. Like, these people don't give a fuck about anything.
Jason, thoughts on Regal?
Regal is the commish of the Black and Gold. So at that point, if you're really going to move away from it, it's, he's going to sweep them all out the way. But I'll miss Regal in the sense of, he's one of those guys that is, as a figurehead, as a commissioner of a brand, his war games, when he screamed that was always a good thing to hear. It was always, they booked him in a sense that made sense. It's a damn shame, but, I didn't even know about this Allison Parker woman or whatever.
Allison Danger.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's the one that I'm still tripping off on, to be perfect.
Oh, my phone just died.
Okay.
Because it's too cold outside. That's going to do it for our 3 count. Ding, ding, ding. Hey, Jason, we have some birthdays going on. We have Chavo Sr. is 73. Darby Allin is 29. Bushwhacker Luke is 75. Bad Luck Fale is 40. Chris Masters is 39. Todd Grisham is 46. Ruby Soho is 31. Buff Bagwell is 52. Grandmaster Sexay is 50. Tamina Snuka is 44, and Abdullah the Butcher, the Hepatitis King, is 82.
Stop.
Welcome to
Nope, that's not it. Hey, everybody, we appreciate you guys listening to our podcast.
That's funny.
We know there's tons of podcasts to listen to, so we appreciate you guys listening to ours. For
The Departed.
Vice, for
Check.
Jason Cornelius Bell,
Check.
for Two Beard Zach
The
Bowman,
Departed,
I
Two Beard
am
Zach Bowman.
Bill
Check.
Veggie, and everybody just boo the heels. It's
And
so
stay
goddamn
fucking
cold.
warm.